didn't want to interrupt that epic tune. Um, but I just want to call out the fact that, again, right now you're seeing us do the scale adjustment here. And again, this is why you work conventionally. We're twice the size off. We can just scale this thing 2 times, freeze the X-forms, and be done with it. Okay, very simple to do this stuff. And maybe we need to even go a little higher than that just because of the actual scale of the player. Maybe we want to go a little bigger, maybe 3 times that or whatever. But again, we can do it as long as we're consistent. Okay. So again, our textile density and that kind of stuff, we would scale accordingly. If we go 2 times, that follows the 2048. We go 3 times, it's 1.5 times that size. We just need to, remember what we do and go from there. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just going to help the export here because when I take this thing over as an FBX, this isn't going to go across correctly. It's just not. I want to kind of aid it a little bit so when it tessellates and stuff, it tessellates it okay. So a couple little things to remember about FBX. FBX respects your hierarchy, your animations, well, not your, yeah, I mean, I didn't say your hierarchy, and your animations and your grouping, okay? So you can group stuff, okay? It'll remember that. That's going to be important if you guys start doing animations on just static environment props. I'm going to keep that in mind. And again, we'll test the scale of this, maybe it's a, there we go, it's a little better. Keep it nice and even. And it's looking like it's still a little big, but we'll see what it looks like in game. Okay. Obviously, these scale changes that we would do, we would obviously propagate out to all the designer blockout geometry. Again, keeping it consistent. For the sake of this demo, we're only going to do one little piece here. I'm just starting a new project. Blueprint, first person, has all the code. We're not going to do a deep dive into Unreal. That is not what this course is focused on. Okay, this focus is the primary focus of this course is on content creation external to the engine. We'll talk a little bit about some of the cool stuff in the engine so you guys can make some cool portfolio stuff. But there's a lot of cool documentation already out there on Unreal. We don't need to kind of beat it over the head. Okay, I'm going to embed it in the floor because I haven't showed you guys how to make collision yet. We're going to show you that in just a second. It's actually ridiculously simple. Um, and it's actually just you have to follow, you have to make an object convex, meaning it needs to be closed. Can't buckle in on itself or anything like that, and I'll show you what that looks like. Um, but this is the huge benefit of Unreal. Okay, this iteration, this back and forth. I'm checking the scale out. I'm like, hey, this is good. This is a quick change. I'm making sure it looks correct from the first person perspective, and ideally, this kind of back and forth feedback is what you're after, okay? To drop in really quick, I'm just hitting Alt P. It's allowing me just to drop in an Alt play. If you have like basic design questions or basic art questions on Unreal, go through and take the Unreal course that Epic provides. It's on YouTube. I forget who the artist is that explains it, but he does a really good job of explaining it. And he just kind of explains the very basics of Unreal. And again, see right now I'm just doing some minor scene adjustments based off of what I saw when I took this thing into Unreal. And this is going to dictate any art changes. So again, I'm contextually evaluating stuff. I want to see if this rail needs to be bigger or smaller. Looks like it probably needs to come down a little bit. This is the part that I kind of enjoy the most, this little back and forth iteration time, and it's setting the scale up off of the actual geometry, the arted geometry a little bit, I think helps you a lot with the scale. And again, if we're consistent, we can adjust the scale as long as we propagate it across everything. We already have our rules set up, we can do that. And look how quickly we've gone through and got that scale worked out. Okay. Imagine if you went through an entire production and you never did this stuff, and you never spent the time to go through and actually, block this stuff out or go through and evaluate your work like this. This is incredibly vital. This is where I think true art kind of comes from, and not even true art, but like this is the where the best place to be for artists, I think, is the ability to iterate and iterate fast and not fight with your tools. Okay, regardless of what modeling package you like to use, it really just comes down to on what's it easiest to use. Like, what are you after, right? And what's going to make however you work the easiest. And same thing with your game engine, right? If your game engine isn't going to let you work effectively and fast, that's a big problem because everything's going to take 3 times as long. You want to spend your time making stuff look cool, making stuff efficient, focusing on the needs of gameplay, focusing on what your customers want, not fighting with your tools. And that's um, you know there are shortcomings with Unreal. It tends to be a very closed off system. It tends to be designed for very specific things. To fit Epic's needs. But Unreal 4, it seems like they're definitely marketing a product more so than they are just a straight game engine, which is great because they seem like they're listening to a lot of the feedback and stuff people are giving them. But that's one of the big advantages to Unreal is the ability that you can go in and just iterate on stuff and you can just do it fast. You don't have to fight with anything. I think that's one of the hardest things for non artists to understand when they talk about game engines and productions and that kind of stuff, and the ease of tool sets and that kind of stuff. You will be able to make art 1,001 times better if you don't fight with your tools. You will be able to work 100% better. Like I'm not even kidding you, man. The end companies where I've worked at where the tools were non-existent or the engine never got in the way, and the pipeline was really simple. Best stuff ever. Best stuff ever. Easiest stuff to work in. Best stuff to work in. Most fun I've ever had. There's been companies where that hasn't been the case.